I had a liver transplant and was at one particular point before I had the transplant. I was very close to death, and teen star Shelly Fabares had it all. Her hit song, Johnny Angel, beat the Beatles on the charts. She starred with Elvis in 3 movies. Then everything crashed. In '94, she fell through her own floor, breaking every rib on her left side. Doctors discovered a hidden illness destroying her liver. The only option was a transplant. For 22 months, she waited, not knowing if she'd live or die. What happened next changed everything. Shelly Fabares was born on January 19, 1944, in Santa Monica, California. Her father came from New Orleans, and her mother would later be diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 1988. But the biggest influence on Shelly's life wasn't her parents. It was her aunt. Nanette Fabares, a Broadway and television star, had already won a Tony and 3 Emmys before Shelly even got started. Watching her aunt's success gave Shelly a front-row view of what a life in show business could look like. It didn't seem like a dream. It seemed possible. By age 3, Shelly was already modeling. Her mother saw her potential and put her in front of a camera in 1947. Shelly's older sister Nanette, who they called Smokey, also did modeling but didn't stick with it. Shelly, on the other hand, had something special. She looked young for her age. That meant she could keep playing younger roles while other kids were aging out of the business. It gave her more time to stay in the spotlight. At just 10 years old, Shelly made her television debut. It was 1954, and she appeared in Letter to Loretta. That single episode opened the floodgates. Over the next few years, she showed up in Captain Midnight, Annie Oakley, Fury, and Colgate Theater. Then came a major opportunity. In Producer's Showcase, Shelly got to act alongside Frank Sinatra and Paul Newman. For a kid, that was unheard of. She also appeared in a live version of Wuthering Heights, proving she could handle serious material. By 1958, she had a major role in Disney's Annette, appearing in 15 episodes. Shelly wasn't just another child actor anymore. She was becoming a known name. Film roles followed. In 1955, she appeared in The Girl Rush. It was uncredited, but it got her on a movie set. The next year, she played Susie Parker in Never Say Goodbye. She was only 12, but her name was finally in the credits. That same year, she also showed up in The Bad Seed and Rock, Pretty Baby, though still without credit. In 1957, she acted in Gene Eagles as just Teenage Girl. Again, no credit. It kept happening. Small parts, often without recognition, but each one taught her something. In 1958, she landed roles in Marjorie Morningstar and Summer Love. Things were building, slowly but steadily. Then came the break. In 1958, at just 14, Shelly landed the role of Mary Stone on The Donna Reed Show. It changed everything. She went from part-time roles to full-time stardom. The show ran for 191 episodes, and Shelly was there for most of them. Suddenly, she was a teen idol. She wasn't just acting anymore. She was becoming a cultural figure. Her casting in the show wasn't typical. By the time she auditioned, she had already sung with Frank Sinatra and acted on national television. That wasn't normal for a 14-year-old, but Shelly wasn't normal. She had been working since she was 3. Her aunt, Nanette, was already famous. She knew the industry inside out. She was young, but she was ready. Behind the scenes, something deeper was happening. Shelly and Donna Reed developed a close bond. It wasn't just co-stars, it was almost family. Shelly later said Donna was like a second mother. Donna helped her grow, not just as an actress, but as a person. One day, Donna said, "Why don't you call me Donna instead of Miss Reed?" Shelly was shocked. Raised in Catholic school, she was used to formality. It took her a while to get used to it, but it showed how close they had become. Shelly Fabares never planned to become a singer, but in late 1961, the network had other plans. They decided her character should sing on the show, and Shelly had no choice but to go along. That's how she ended up in a recording booth, scared and surrounded by top musicians. She stood next to Darlene Love and the Blossoms, who were real backup singers, guitarist Glenn Campbell, drummer Hal Blaine, and bassist Carol Kay played behind her. Legends, even then. Shelly could barely believe it. She admitted later, "I never could sing." The producers knew it too. They flooded her vocals with echo to cover her weaknesses, especially in the repeated line, "Johnny Angel." The song aired on the show in early 1962. No one expected much. Shelly certainly didn't, but something wild happened. Just weeks later, on April 7th, Johnny Angel hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It stayed on the chart for 15 weeks. It also topped the Cashbox chart and hit #1 in Canada and New Zealand. Even in the UK, where another singer had already covered it, Fabares' version reached #41. Over 1 million copies sold. It earned a gold disc, all from someone who never wanted to sing at all. Critics called her voice warm, soft, and coated in echo. Some even said her version beat the professionals because of its sweetness and innocence. It didn't sound bold or confident, but maybe that's why it worked. The label rushed out another single. In May 1962, Johnny Loves Me was released. It was written by Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, and told the story of the same girl finally winning Johnny's heart. It didn't reach the same heights, but still climbed to #21 on Billboard and #7 on the Adult Contemporary chart. In Canada, it reached #24. Shelly followed up with The Things We Did Last Summer, which reached #46. All of these songs went on her second album with the same title. She didn't perform live much, which was common at the time for TV stars turned singers. Most appearances were lip-synced anyway. Her producers kept the sound the same, dreamy, soft, drenched in echo. The songs were meant for teenagers, and they worked. Her music didn't challenge the charts for long, but it stayed in the memory of fans who heard it at the time. Then came the albums. Shelly was under contract with Colpix Records and had to release full-length records. Her first was called Shelly, and by 1963, she had a third album out called Teenage Triangle. But behind the scenes, she wanted out. The schedule was brutal. Most shows today film around 22 episodes per season. The Donna Reed Show filmed 39 every year for 5 years straight. Shelly was working almost non-stop from age 14 to 19. She even had to take classes on set to keep up with school. It was a factory-like grind, and it left little room for teenage freedom. After 5 seasons, Shelly made a bold move. She left. The official reason was to go to college. But the truth was more complicated. She'd been pushed into a music career she didn't want. She was exhausted. Her departure wasn't easy. She did return for 7 more episodes in later seasons, but the damage had been done. For the next 4 years, she couldn't get work. Hollywood moved on. Shelly waited. She believed the right time would come again. And eventually, it did. When Shelly Fabares showed up to film Girl Happy in 1965, she had only been married for 17 days. Her new husband was producer Lou Adler. But it was Elvis Presley who greeted her on set. She was nervous at first, but the moment they met, that changed. Shelly said it felt like they'd known each other forever. Not in a romantic way, but something clicked. Elvis already knew her work. He'd seen her on the Donna Reed Show, and he knew her hit song, Johnny Angel, which had gone to #1 back in 1962. He made her feel comfortable from the start. Their chemistry was obvious. Even the crew noticed it. Critics would later say her sweet, innocent vibe worked perfectly next to Elvis. In Girl Happy, she played Valerie Frank, the daughter of a Chicago mobster. Elvis was hired to watch over her during spring break in Fort Lauderdale. It was a light, fun movie, but it was more than that. It was the beginning of something real between them. Not love, but a friendship that would last through 3 movies in 3 years. The next year, they were back together in Spin Out, shot between February 21st and April 1966. Shelly played Cynthia Fox Hugh, a spoiled rich girl whose father owned a racing company. This time, Elvis's character, Mike McCoy, had 3 love interests: Shelly, Diane McBain, and Deborah Wally. That could have made things awkward, but it didn't. In fact, Carl Betts, who had played Shelly's father on The Donna Reed Show, was cast as her father again and in Spin Out. That familiar face helped ease the tension on set. The movie was a hit with fans. Part of that was the chemistry between Elvis and the women. All 3 brought something unique, and none of them faded next to him. Elvis was paid $750,000 for the film, plus 40% of the profits. That kind of money showed just how powerful his name still was. Members of his Memphis Mafia would later say that Shelly was the only co-star who could match Anne Margaret's energy. That wasn't a small compliment. Anne Margaret had been Elvis's favorite. By 1967, when Clambake started filming, things had changed. Elvis had gained weight, up from 170 pounds to 200. He was upset with the direction of his career. The scripts were getting worse, the roles more predictable. A studio executive ordered him to slim down. That's when he started using diet pills, which would haunt him for years. On that set, Shelly wasn't just a co-star. She was a listener, a confidant. They talked privately for hours in trailers and dressing rooms. One day, he told her something he hadn't told almost anyone, that he was going to marry Priscilla Beaulieu. When he left the room and told the others, I told her, they were stunned. Many of them hadn't even known, but he trusted Shelly. Clambake became a turning point. Elvis's frustration with the movies was boiling over. He had been compared to James Dean once, but instead of serious roles, he was stuck doing forgettable scripts. By then, Shelly wasn't just an actress beside him. She was someone who understood the real man, someone who saw the cracks behind the smile. Even though they worked so closely together, their relationship stayed strictly platonic. That wasn't always the case with Elvis and his co-stars. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, often encouraged fake romances to help sell tickets. It had worked with Anne Margaret in Viva Las Vegas and helped boost her fame. But Shelly and Elvis didn't play that game. She later said their friendship was real and honest. He didn't have to perform with her. There was no pressure to flirt, no headlines to chase, and maybe that's why he trusted her so much. Years later, Shelly looked back on that time with both warmth and sadness. She saw what fame had done to him. I just ache for what happened with him, she said. She knew he had made some bad choices, but she also understood why. He had gone from being a 19-year-old boy in Tupelo, Mississippi, to the biggest star in the world almost overnight. She remembered one moment in the MGM cafeteria. Elvis peeked through the door, and the entire room ran toward him. What was it like, she asked, to be that boy and have that happen 100 times more? He never stood a chance. The pressure, the isolation, the expectations, it all chipped away at him. Shelly Fabares had been working in show business since she was just 3 years old. But in the late 1960s, everything came to a sudden stop. She once said, I went to bed on Tuesday, having worked since I was 3. I got up Wednesday morning and didn't work for 4 years. That wasn't just a dry spell, it was a full-blown career crisis. The cheerful image that had once made her famous no longer fit with the changing times. Audiences wanted something deeper and more serious. Vietnam, politics, and rebellion were shaping pop culture. Shelly's sweet and innocent screen presence didn't stand a chance. She later admitted she didn't take risks. She was scared to reinvent herself, afraid to do something bold. I should have been more aggressive, she said. That fear probably cost her some big opportunities, but eventually she started working again slowly. Her comeback began with a guest role on the show Mannix. It wasn't a big part, but it was a step forward. After that, she kept appearing in shows like The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, Daniel Boone, and Medical Center. Each one helped rebuild what she had almost lost. In 1968, right in the middle of all this struggle, she starred in a movie called A Time to Sing with Hank Williams Jr. The film was supposed to boost both their careers, but it didn't work out. Shelly played Amy Carter, and Hank played Grady Dodd, a young farmer drawn into music against his uncle's wishes. The plot didn't make much sense, and critics tore it apart. It got a weak 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb. One reviewer called it idiot plotting, where every character made decisions that just didn't add up. Even though it was produced by Sam Katzman, who had a history of success with teen movies, this one flopped. It failed to impress both the audience and the critics. During these years, Shelly took any role she could get. She jumped from one guest spot to another. She was seen in Lancer, Kraken's World, and The Interns. After her role in Mannix, she appeared in Longstreet, McCloud, Owen Marshall, Cades County, and Love American Style. But no matter how many roles she played, Hollywood still saw her as Mary Stone, the teenager from the Donnerid Show. That image followed her like a shadow. One standout role came in 1974 on The Rockford Files. She played Jolene Hyland, the wife of an embezzler who had stolen over $4 million. Her character hired Jim Rockford to track down $750,000 in rare stamps her husband had bought. It was a grown-up part, with twists, betrayal, and criminal schemes. For once, Shelly wasn't just the nice girl. She was sharp, driven, and layered. It showed she could handle more mature roles, but Hollywood still kept her boxed in. By the early 1980s, Shelly's career was still moving, but life behind the scenes was changing even more. She didn't file for bankruptcy, but there were hints of financial stress. In 1983, she took a role in a TV movie called Memorial Day. That's where she met Mike Farrell, the actor known from MASH. They fell in love and married in 1984. Not long after, they bought a modest house in Sherman Oaks. Farrell later called it their honeymoon house. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. Shelly Fabares never expected her life to change at a simple CBS convention in 1982. She had been through a tough divorce from Lou Adler. Mike Farrell, also newly divorced from Judy Farrell, was just another familiar face at the event. They had met once before, back in 1970, but it meant nothing then. This time, something clicked. A casual coffee turned into something deeper when Mike invited her to see his photography work. 1 year later, over a quiet meal at a health food restaurant in Topanga Canyon, Mike proposed. Shelly said yes. They got married on August 21, 1984, in a small ceremony at her aunt's house. That aunt was actress Nanette Fabares. The years that followed were not easy. Both had children from previous marriages. Both were healing from old wounds, but they made it work, quietly and steadily. In 1989, Shelly landed the role that would redefine her career. Christine Armstrong on Coach. It was a surprise win. Nearly 200 women had auditioned. Many were younger. ABC executives didn't think she fit the part. But producer Barry Kemp pushed hard. He believed Shelly was the perfect mix of sharp, funny, and strong. He was right. At first, Coach didn't draw much attention. It ranked just 62nd. Shelly joked that only 6 people were watching. But then ABC moved it to air after Roseanne. Ratings shot up. Suddenly, millions were tuning in. On screen, Shelly and Craig T. Nelson looked like the perfect match. But behind the scenes, it wasn't always smooth. Craig's acting was unpredictable. Shelly preferred order. One day during episode 11, after too many retakes, they had a long talk in her dressing room. It lasted 2 hours. They cleared the air. From that moment, their dynamic shifted. Their on-screen chemistry became real. Their characters married in the show's 100th episode, aired in May 1993. Success followed. Shelly earned 2 Emmy nominations in 1993 and 1994. They were the only ones of her adult career. For someone who had started acting at age 3, who had once starred in the Donna Reed show, the recognition came late, but felt right. The Young Artist Foundation even honored her with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Her proudest work was no longer behind her. But just as things were at their best, everything changed in 1994. That year, Shelly fell through a hole in her home floor during renovations. The fall shattered every rib on her left side. She was 50. The pain was unbearable. Recovery took months. Still, she kept working on Coach. At the time, everyone thought it was just a horrible accident. But something worse was coming. After the fall, her doctors ran routine tests. Her liver enzyme levels were dangerously high. No one knew why. More tests followed. More confusion. It took years before doctors finally diagnosed her with autoimmune hepatitis. Her immune system was attacking her liver. Medications helped for a while, but the damage continued. She felt exhausted all the time. Sometimes she slept 20 hours a day. Her husband, Mike, was worried. Shelly stayed strong in public, but inside she was falling apart. Then in early 1999, the hidden crisis exploded. At home, without warning, Shelly suffered a massive esophageal bleed. Blood vessels in her throat burst open. She was rushed to Cedars-Sinai. Doctors told her the worst. Her liver was failing. Medication could no longer help. Only a transplant could save her. In April 1999, she was placed on the transplant list. For the next 22 months, her life was a waiting game. Every day was uncertain. Every time her pager went off, she hoped. But many times, it was a mistake. Each false alarm crushed her. She grew weaker. Still, she waited. The call came just after midnight on October 23, 2000. After 22 long, stressful months on the transplant list, Shelly Fabares finally heard the words she had been waiting for. "We have your liver." It was Dr. John Vierling on the phone. For Shelly and her husband, actor Mike Farrell, the moment didn't feel real. They had been through several false alarms before. Times when the transplant pager went off, only for it to be a wrong number. Each time had been terrifying. Shelly once said, "We honestly thought we might die of stress before we ever got the transplant." By the time the real call came, Shelly was in bad shape. She could barely stay awake. "I wasn't in pain," she said later, "but I was just so tired. I'd wake up thirsty, try to get up for water, then think, no, I'm more tired than I am thirsty, and go back to sleep." At that point, she and Mike knew how serious it had become. More than half the people waiting for liver transplants never get one in time. Her medical problems had started years earlier and not in the way anyone expected. In 1994, Shelly fell through the floor of her home while it was under construction. She broke all the ribs on her left side. During routine testing after the accident, doctors noticed something strange. Her liver numbers were off the charts. They couldn't explain why. For years, medicine kept her stable, though her numbers were still too high. Then, in early 1999, she suffered a terrifying esophageal bleed. She was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. That was the turning point. Doctors told her the bleed came from liver failure. Medication wasn't enough anymore. And another bleed could be fatal. She needed a transplant to survive. The operation finally took place in October 2000. It saved her life. Though the exact details of the surgery aren't public, the cause of her liver failure was later found to be an autoimmune disorder. Her recovery wasn't easy. The body doesn't bounce back quickly from such a major surgery. She had to rebuild strength, deal with constant fatigue, and carry the weight of everything she had been through. What helped her get through it was Mike. Shelly called him her lifeline. "He was there for every doctor's appointment," she said. "He was with me every step of the way. Some marriages fall apart under pressure like this. Theirs didn't. It only got stronger." Shelly later said, "We became closer. I don't know how I could have made it through without him." Shelly never forgot that the transplant was only possible because another family lost someone they loved. She once said she was always aware that she was living on borrowed time. The wait had been brutal. 22 months filled with fear, uncertainty, and hope. Though she didn't talk publicly about her donor, she spoke often about her deep gratitude. Organ transplants come with complicated emotions. You're alive, but someone else isn't. That reality never left her. The mental toll was heavy, too. While Shelly didn't publicly talk about PTSD, studies show that 46% of liver transplant patients experience severe stress after surgery. Up to 45% suffer depression. Many feel anxiety that lingers long after the physical scars heal. Shelly admitted the experience changed her completely. Even though life has returned to some degree of normalcy, she said, "I'm a different person. What I care about and how I see life, it's all changed." By 2003, 3 years after her transplant, she had gained some distance, but the memories and emotions were still there. "I'm grateful for my life, grateful for my doctors, grateful for what I've learned," she said. "But most of all, I'm grateful for my husband." Still, despite all the growth and strength she found, Shelly was honest about the cost. "I wouldn't wish this experience on anyone." Shelly Fabares didn't start out as an activist. She was a famous actress, known for her work in TV and film. But everything changed when Alzheimer's hit her family. Her mother, Elsa, was diagnosed in the early 1980s. Shelly didn't know it at first, but her mother had already spent years quietly donating to Alzheimer's research. She had even told Shelly's sister that if she ever got the disease, she'd rather take her own life. But by the time doctors diagnosed her, it was too late. She didn't remember what she'd once said. Elsa battled Alzheimer's for 9 long years. In 1992, she passed away. The loss hit Shelly hard. But instead of turning away, she turned her pain into purpose. Since 1988, before her mother even died, she had already started volunteering for the Alzheimer's Association. She stayed committed. She became one of their national spokespeople. This wasn't just about awareness. Shelly wanted change. And she didn't stop at speeches or charity events. She went straight to Washington. Between 1998 and 2004, she testified before Congress 4 times. She spoke about the pain, the need for help, and the importance of funding research. She didn't hold back. Her words made an impact. During a Senate hearing in 2001, Senator Tom Harkin pointed to her earlier testimony as a turning point. The numbers prove it. The NIH's budget for Alzheimer's research jumped from $308 million in 1996 to $520 million in 2000. Shelly kept fighting. She used her fame not for fame's sake, but to push for something bigger. She once said, "I love being an actress, but with the work I'm doing for Alzheimer's, I feel this is what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet." And she meant it. What started as a family tragedy became her life's mission.